how do you assess these statements from Cameron saying it's up to Ukraine how it uses weapons which are supplied by the UK? Do you see this as a direct escalation?
Yeah, I see it as a problem. I do, because what's absent from this and nearly everything that the West has been doing is that there is no strategy. There's no overarching, even stated objective. Here's what we want to accomplish. Here's what these weapons are going to do, is how it's going to succeed for Ukraine. Here's what success even looks like. There's none of that. It's just, let's give some weapons and then they can do whatever they want with it, oblivious to what's happening actually on the front lines where the armies are meeting, which are decidedly going in Russia's favor, and it continues to move in that direction. Everything that goes on, especially off the battlefields, from what's being produced by the Russian Ministry of Defense, their industrial capacity, they're growing their army by tens of thousands every month. Ukraine will never be able to match that. So by launching, by giving basically permission to launch these missiles into Russian territory, which, Russia has said is off limits, then they risk that Russia will now fire even more targets inside Ukraine in retaliation, because Russia has many times more weapons that they can fire into Ukraine that they have thus far relatively held off to military targets or any energy infrastructure related to military capacity. So this could go a lot further than what it has been. And the talk of bringing in troops from France is not a good sign.
Would you say that this points to differences within NATO members, the European members and UK over how Ukraine is using these weapons? And it's said that it's, as you mentioned as well, that it's up to Ukraine as to how it chooses to use these weapons. Now, what sort of an outcome are we looking at if that does happen?
That's the whole issue. You asked the right question there. What is the outcome? So people say, like General, one of the retired American generals, Ben Hodges, has often said we need to use these longer range missiles to drive the Russians out of Crimea, which is absurd. That's not how war works. It hasn't worked that way in the other direction. Russia has fired thousands of long range missiles throughout the entire Ukrainian territory, but you see that has not brought them to their knees. So the idea that firing a few long-range missiles into Russia will have any impact on the front line is just counter to observed reality on the ground. But it can fire them up and make them a lot angrier and make them expand their target list inside Ukraine. Bottom line is, this is not going to help Ukraine win, because at this point, nothing can. All it's going to do is stir up that beehive, make it more angry, and it's probably going to cause more casualties on the Ukraine side.
Absolutely. So I believe what I'm also trying to understand is that can a divided West or a divided NATO actually help Ukraine if these are the kind of statements that are coming out?
It's worse than that. To answer your question, yeah, the divisions and the lack of any kind of strategic direction, because you have the U.S. doing one thing, you have Britain doing something else, you have Slovakia doing something different, Poland, the Baltics, everybody's kind of just mishmashing whatever they want to do, and there's no chance that's going to have any positive outcome on the battlefield. But it's even worse than that, because all of these tranches of support that's coming in now, it's not clear at all that the U.S. is going to have any more after this. And several other countries are about the edge of what they're going to do. So Ukraine is saying that this money is going to help them get through 2024. But when you get to 2025, it's not clear at all that they're going to have any more support. So there's every way you want to look at this. It's bad for the Ukraine side, and they need to seek a negotiated settlement.